now that I'm saying this, I feel like you're never gonna look at me the same way again. I wanted to be Dauntless all over again, but I know in my heart of hearts that I am an Amity. I did end up reading my first fanfiction. I just read some of the quotes. It was good. Say what you want, I thought it was good. Dauntless in my dreams. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah. I read a lot of books in the past couple of months. I hadn't got a chance to talk about it because I went on a 3-week trip all around Asia. We went to Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, and it was amazing. And I have a couple videos up about it now. Because I was in Asia for 3 weeks, I didn't get to do an August wrap up, but I did definitely read so many books on my 24-hour flight to and from Thailand. So I wanted to do a collective, all the books that I read in the months of August and September. We have 12 books to talk about today. There are definitely some really good ones here. Definitely some ones that were out of my comfort zone until I read them. And I just have a lot of thoughts about all my books. We are going to be talking about the 12 books that I read in August and September, which is crazy to me that we are already in the month of October. That's just, I don't know how to feel about the fact that we're already in October. Like, I feel like it was just January 2024. Anyway, so let's just get right in. The first book that I read was The Legacy by Elle Kennedy. This is the last book in the Off-Campus series. It's actually a series of novellas. The Legacy, I gave a 3.5 stars. I honestly just felt good that I finished the Off-Campus series. I have like a weird, I guess, relationship with the Off-Campus series. I really liked the first and third one, and I was so-so on the second and fourth one. But I did really like this book. This is 4 novellas. They all are told from the point of views of each of our 4 main couples. They each are going through a different milestone. There's a honeymoon, there's a wedding, there's a baby, I think. Like, there's a few different things that our couples are going through. So you get to follow them along and see what their lives are like after their off-campus book. I actually ended up reading this on the plane coming home from Thailand, and it was honestly just the perfect book to just quickly pick up and read. Not too much brain power, very easy to read. I do think that if you like sports romances, then you would like the Off-Campus series. I feel like it's not like necessary that you read this book because it is just like a series of novellas, but I am a perfectionist and I had to complete the whole series and all the books that are out currently. That's A Legacy. The next book I read is our first 5-star book of this video, and there are a few 5 stars. But our first one is Finale by Stephanie Garber. We have finally finished the Caraval trilogy. Thank goodness. I have been trying to finish this trilogy for so long, I feel like, because it is like a very good trilogy. I love Stephanie Garber's writing. I say this in every video where I read her books. Like, her writing is just so lyrical and beautiful. There's a reason there are so many tabs in this book. It's just beautiful. Some of the quotes, her worlds that she builds, you can just totally get engrossed in those stories. She has very descriptive, beautiful writing. It makes me very excited to finally get into Once Upon a Broken Heart, the trilogy that is super famous that everyone has talked about, but I really wanted to get through the Caraval trilogy first. But now I can read Once Upon a Broken Heart. And honestly, this book was the perfect finale to the Caraval series. I feel like it wrapped everything up that we have been going through in the past couple of books with these characters very well. It was the last few chapters maybe went crazy. I was not expecting it to go the direction that it went in the last few chapters of this book. I could not put it down. Definitely highly recommend the Caraval series. It is basically about a night circus, and there's 2 sisters. They get involved in the night circus and they realize that not everything is what it appears in Caraval. It's just such a good involved world that I feel like you can really get lost in. Highly recommend that book. We read another novella, last book in a series, Happily Ever After by Kira Cass. This has the prince, the guard, the queen, and the favorite, plus some other like bonus things from the Selection series. I have been reading the Selection series. Actually, I'll talk about this book as well. The Crown by Kira Cass. This is the last book in the Selection series. And then you have the novella book. I've been reading the Selection series 1 a month basically. It's like a YA dystopian series. It was super popular when it came out in like 2014, but I never read it, so I finally picked it up because I was trying to get through my physical TBR. I did really like the series. Like, it's YA dystopian, so it has that whole like, oh, she's special, Hunger Games Divergent type thing, Bridgerton vibes. It's basically about a society where it's like The Bachelor and Bridgerton were like smushed together in a YA dystopian book. That's how I would describe the selection series. The prince narrows down all of the selected to one person. This is actually the second book in the duology of the same world, but it's about the daughter. Like, it's not about what the first 3 books are about. It's not about that person. It is about the daughter of the prince and the selected, the one that he chooses, their daughter. I did not like the daughter in the first book told in her point of view. I just thought she was bratty. I thought she wasn't a very likable character. But I also said in that video that I understand because there needs to be like room for growth in the next book, and we definitely saw that in this book. I feel like it's still not the most likable character, but you definitely see some growth in there. She's 18, so of course there has to be some character growth going on in there. She was somewhat redeemed in this book, so if you didn't like the heir, which is what my opinion was, then I think you still should read The Crown because it does sort of explain more why she thinks that way and somewhat redeems her, and she becomes less annoying. So this is the collection of novellas that are all bound up into happily ever after. It's like different point of views of the characters that we see throughout the books. Just like with The Legacy, like I don't think it's like an essential thing that you have to read, but because I'm a perfectionist, I'm like, there's one more book in the series, I always need to read it. Because it's a bunch of novellas, it does go by relatively fast. One thing that I found odd, maybe it's just been reading this author too much, but she talks about her characters in like her author's notes like they're real people, and that just felt weird to me. I don't know, there was something about that that made me feel uneasy. Maybe uneasy isn't the right word, but just like something that made me feel like odd about the fact that she was talking about these characters as they were real people. I ended up giving the novella book 2.5. So I did write in my Goodreads what I thought about it. I said, it got boring hearing the same story from 1,000 different perspectives, but if you really are head over heels in love with the characters of this series, then you'll love this epilogue that lets you spend more time with them. So I was not head over heels in love with the characters, of course, but yes, now that I'm thinking about it, I do remember this did get a little bit boring just because it is the same story over and over and over again. So yeah, it's not a necessity, but if you want to, you can. It's an easy read. And then I ended up giving this one a 3.5 because definitely better than the other book in the series, The Heir. And I did like seeing Edlin's like growth and everything like that. That was these 2 books. And then actually I read my first fan fiction, you guys. Now that I'm saying this, I feel like you're never gonna look at me the same way again. I did end up reading my first fan fiction. I chose Breath Mints / Battle Scars. I think people say it like Breath Mints and Battle Scars by Onyx and Elm. I read it on my Kindle because I have to go through this whole thing where you have to read it on AO3 and then download it onto your Kindle. There's a lot of TikTok videos on it. I figured out a way to do it on my Kindle, and it's been just sitting on my Kindle. If you've watched any of my videos, you probably know that I really love the Harry Potter series, and it's just had a resurgence, I feel like, on TikTok recently. And then on my For You page, all of these like fan fictions came up, and one of the first ones I saw was Breath Mints and Battle Scars, so I did download it, and honestly was the best first fanfic that I ever read. Honestly, like, this fanfiction was better than some like printed books that I've read. Like, it was just, the writing was beautiful, the storytelling, the character growth and development, it was just completely hooked me in. It made me cry at one point, which, listen, I know when people say like they read fan fictions, you think it's like silly, whatever, but some of them are really, really deep. And this one was really, really deep, and it made me cry. I'm not gonna blabber on about it if you're not into the whole fanfiction universe, but I will say it involves Draco Malfoy and Hermione Granger, and it's just such an interesting take on Draco and Hermione's characters. And I definitely kind of want to read more just because this fanfiction was so good. Like, it was beautiful, the writing. I am still wiping my tears at some of the quotes that I highlighted. That is all I'm gonna say about that, my little fan fiction rant. Just look, it was good. Say what you want, I thought it was good. Moving on, we have The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. This is the first Sarah Adams book that I read, and I ended up giving it a 4.5 stars. I was so pleasantly surprised about how much I really liked this book, because I know Sarah Adams wrote like Practice Makes Perfect, The Cheat Sheet, and One in Rome. I think those are the other 3 that I know of that she wrote. I think this one was on like Libby or something, like my library app. I put a holdout for it because it was a new one and everyone was talking about it. After I was done reading it on Libby, I bought the physical book because I wanted to highlight all of the amazing quotes that I saw when I was reading. Honestly, I love the way Sarah Adams writes. Almost conversational it feels, and how the way that she writes, it gives her characters such a personality. And I really loved Nora's perspective, that she was just such a fun character. She was quirky, but not like cringe quirky. Really enjoyed her point of view and the way that she described how Nora would say things. It was just funny as well, and it was a really good love story. It's kind of like a sports romance, but it's also a second chance romance. He is a famous football player, and then she becomes his like publicist or something, and they used to date, and there's a lot of unsaid feelings between them. So, you know, they all bubble to the surface as they spend this much time together. I cannot wait to read more books by her because I just loved her author's voice. It almost gave me the vibe of Emily Henry, which is very high praise, but like just the way that she writes, I did feel similar to the way that I feel when I read Emily Henry books. So yeah. I just read some of the quotes. They're good. I really recommend this book, honestly. It's a quick little book to get into, but it does dive into like deeper topics. I read Girl Abroad by Elle Kennedy. I gave this one a 2.75. I think it was just that it was so long. Like, look how long this is. I think it's over 500 pages, or like almost 500 pages. It was just way too long for a romance. Elle Kennedy is the author of the Off-Campus series, you know, The Legacy that I talked about earlier in the video. And this is actually about a girl who... Okay, hello. It happened. My camera battery died, so I just had to get my backup camera. I am so sorry. It so rudely cut me off. But we were talking about Girl Abroad, about a girl who studies abroad in London, and she ends up rooming with all guys when she thought they were all girls, and she keeps it a secret from her dad. You know, she ends up in a love triangle. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting a little bit too old for Elle Kennedy's writing, or like this type of writing where it's like, oh my god, these 2 super hot guys left their girlfriends because they're obsessed with me. That was the vibe that this was giving off. I don't know. She was making questionable decisions. I was so close to DNFing it, but I have this like issue where I simply cannot DNF books. So I ended up just listening to it on audiobook for the rest of the time. I think that it was just a little bit, not immature, that sounds so rude, but the way that she wrote the main character just seemed really immature, and she was getting on my nerves. There was even this quote, oh my god. There was this quote in here that pissed me off because it was like, I stare at myself in the mirror.
I'm wondering what it is that he sees. Everything about me feels average. Average weight, height, face. My best feature is probably my hair. It's long and thick, a dark hint of red that people always say reminds them of autumn at night. I guess I don't mind my lips either. But I'm not a supermodel. I shouldn't have Lord trying to kiss me. I shouldn't have him constantly aching for me, or hot guys kissing me left and right. And it was just like very humble bragging. So I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way, some of the things that this main character said. I don't think it's a necessity. The reason I did pick this book up is because I studied abroad in London, so I was like, oh my god, that's so fun. Let me read a book about a girl studying abroad in London. It was just not for me. If you love it, that's fine. Wasn't for me. I read The Coven by Harper L. Woods with these beautiful sprayed edges. This is actually in a video coming up that I'm editing right now, so look to that video if you want more in-depth description of that. But because I go in-depth about this book in that video, I'm not gonna go super in-depth in this video just so I don't bore you by repeating myself. So basically this is the first book in a duology. I gave it a 4.75. I really liked this book. It was the perfect book to get into for like Halloween, fall time, spooky season. I feel like there were just also some scenes in here that were just so chilling, and I was like, oh my god, this is perfect to be reading in the fall. I think it's like a dark fantasy. There were a lot of trigger warnings in the beginning, so look at those first. It is about Willow and
Gray. Willow is basically the last in a dying line of witches. There are also like 12 other houses of witches. They're all run by the Coven, which are basically these like undead skeletal people that are like the first witches of all the houses. And Willow is the last witch of one of the houses. She also has another secret and a different reason for why she agrees to go study at Hallows Grove. Also, that is the name of like, I think it's the name of the school. How fun is that name? Like Hallows Grove. That is the perfect name for a school for witches run by vampires. Like, that is perfect. It's from the point of views of Willow, the witch that I was just talking about, and also Gray, who is called a vessel in this, but he's basically a vampire, and he's also the headmaster. And we also found something very interesting about him in the last chapter of the book. And I do have The Curse, which is the second book, waiting for me, and I can't wait to read it. It's on my October TBR. I cannot wait to read it because just to see like what they do with the revelation that we figured out at the end of this book. So I think I would highly recommend this book if you are looking for a good spooky season fantasy. I think that it was so good, and I'm surprised I haven't seen it more places, honestly. I actually don't have the physical book with me, but I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. Honestly, if you haven't seen this book all over your TikTok and YouTube feed, I don't know how you cheated the algorithm, because I feel like this book was literally everywhere. Honestly, because it was everywhere, I wasn't gonna read it because I'm like that. Then my friend read it and she was like, no, like it's actually really good. So she loaned it to me and I did read it, and I agree. It was a very fun fall book. I gave it a 3.75. It's a fall small town romance between a farmer and a girl who just moved in to Dream Harbor, which is basically based off of Stars Hollow and Gilmore Girls. Like, it's that kind of vibe. Lori Gilmore, the author, even says like in the beginning, like, this is for all the people who thought that Lorelai and Luke should have ended up together in the beginning, which I love because I love Gilmore Girls. It was just fun to see her take on like sort of that story. Basically, this girl, she comes from like a big city job. She had a scare. Now she's into this small town of Stars Hollow where everyone knows everyone, and she has to run the Pumpkin Spice Cafe because her great aunt, I think, left it to her. There's someone that's messing with her throughout the whole book, and it's like a mystery to figure out who is messing with her, which I thought was a fun addition to the book, but I did figure out who it was from like the first couple chapters. So like a fun fall read. I think it's definitely one that I could see myself rereading every fall, just like I rewatch Gilmore Girls every fall. It's just like, it has those like cozy fall vibes, and it's just like a fun little romance. The next book I read is Five Survive by Holly Jackson. It was so good. Like, I did not expect this book to be so good. I give this a 4.75, and it is hard for me to give thrillers that high of a rating. It's just like, usually it's like a mystery is more what you're reading the book for, not for like the actual characters or storyline. In thrillers and mysteries, I feel like the ones that I read at least, but this book was just, I literally could not put it down. When I wasn't reading it, I wanted to be reading it, and I was thinking about it, and whenever I had a chance, I would whip this book out or whip the audiobook out. I did listen to a lot of it on audiobook because I like listening to thrillers on audiobooks. I just feel like it gets me more into the story. Holly Jackson is the author of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is a trilogy that I really also love, and I read, I think, last year. So I do like her writing, and I loved her mystery in this. I did not figure it out at all until the last page. It was just like, it's been a while since I've read a thriller that I truly cannot put down. So I was so happy when I decided to finally pick up Five Survive. I highly recommend it. I think it's just such a good thriller, but you also care about the characters, which I feel like doesn't happen a lot in thrillers. For me, at least, like where I actually care about the characters and the development and everything that happens with them, because I'm more so just in it for the mystery. This mystery was good. It had so many twists and turns, and I really did care about the characters as well. There's this group of 6 friends that are stuck in an RV on their way to spring break. Their tires get popped. They get lost in the woods at night with no service. So, perfect thriller setting. Starting off, start getting shot at in their RV, and then they have a walkie-talkie that this like shooter leaves for them, and he basically says like, I'm looking for a secret, and I'm gonna keep shooting at you, and you're not leaving here until someone tells me that secret. Everyone is pointing fingers at everyone else. Everyone's going a bit crazy because there's such high stakes, and everyone has a secret, and it was just so good. And then the next book I read, I also don't have the physical copy of yet. I ordered it, but it's actually an old book. It's Divergent by Veronica Roth. I have been into the YA dystopian lately. I don't know why. Something about like the fall time just gets me more nostalgic for the wide dystopian age of like Divergent, Hunger Games, Delirium, even ACOTAR, honestly, even though I read that recently. The reason I decided to read it is because my boyfriend and I recently watched all 3 Divergent movies on Netflix. He had never seen them, and like I said, there's something about like wide dystopian that just feels like nostalgic to me, so I tend towards it in the fall. Same thing with Harry Potter. I wanted to reread all the books, so I bought all 3 of the books. I'm currently on the 2nd one, and I read Divergent. I just finished that a few days ago. It was, even though I already read it, I don't know if I would give this one a super high rating, maybe like a 3.75, maybe even a 4-star, just because of the nostalgic factor of it. I used to love wide dystopian age. I used to love Divergent. I remember reading the books in like, what was it, like high school, middle school, that age, and I just thought it was such a good story. And honestly, rewatching the movie, it is still a very good story. Theo James being the love interest helped a lot because he is just in that movie. I did think that it was weird the way that it was written. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, they hardly used any, not compound words, but like they would say is not instead of isn't. You know, like they would just, the way that she wrote it was kind of robotic, and I don't know if that was on purpose. And maybe in the 2nd and 3rd book, she shows growth in Triss because she starts using more like common language. I'm not sure. I have to read the other 2 books and I will get back to you on that. But that was the only thing that really sticks out to me as like that I didn't love about the book. But I love the story and I wanted to be dauntless all over again. But I know in my heart of hearts that I am an Amity. Dauntless in my dreams. Also, I'm going to include this book because I'm almost finished with it. I'm gonna finish it today. It's Magnolia Parks, Into the Dark. I am on page 454, chapter 57. This is a 700-page book, so it is quite a long book, but I thought I might include it in this video just because I feel like I'm gonna finish it. I just love this book so much. There are already so many things that have happened and made me cry. There's a whole reading vlog coming out with this book. It is the last book in BJ and Magnolia's story. I love Magnolia Parks. I have so many videos portraying my love for Magnolia Parks universe, and this one definitely didn't disappoint. It is a thick book, so it took me a little bit to get through. Just like also savoring it because it's the last of Magnolia and BJ's story, and I have put it off long enough where I got this so many months ago and I just haven't read it because I don't want it to end. But I finally picked it up and started reading it, and Jessa Hastings, the way that she writes does something to me and makes me cry, and I feel all the emotions. I already know this is gonna be a 5-star book, but I thought I'd mention it in here just because I think I'm gonna finish it today. Look for that video for all of my thoughts because I still have a lot of predictions of what's gonna happen in the end because I am like maybe 2/3 of the way through it. I love Magnolia Parks universe. Those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 12, including Magnolia Parks books that I read in September and August. Our September and August wrap up of my physical books. I also have a couple books, like I said, that I either listen to it on audiobook or I borrowed from my friend, or for whatever reason I just don't have in the physical copy. But these are our books that we read in August and September. It jump-started me back into like the cozy fall reading mood, so I'm so excited for upcoming vlogs. And these are falling before they make a mess. I'm going to put them back. I think definitely my favorite ones, not including Magnolia Parks because this just takes the cake for everything. Favorite ones that I read, I'm gonna say are the Rulebook, Finale, The Coven. I feel like these are the 3 books that are really gonna stick with me and that I just loved the most. Those are all the books that I read in August and September. That is gonna be it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!